Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches NIDAH Nun Tes. We begin 3 lines from the top of the Amud Itma. We have learned as follows. Nimtza Aleha Kigris V'Oid. As we learned yesterday, if a woman finds a stain, and the stain is small, to the extent that we can attribute it, we can blame it on a ma'acholos, on a louse that was squished in that place. So even though it's an unknown, but it was granted to every woman as a standard, let's call it an exemption, standard exemption for all, that they can blame a small stain if it's up until the size of a gris, it's half a bean, that can be attributed to a louse. Now, if the stain is larger than that, but there's a catch. On that extra bit of stain, you actually found a louse attached to it. So the question is, can she take a double exemption? An itemized exemption for that extra, blamed on that louse, and then for the rest, you'll apply standard exemption. So can you apply standard and itemized in the same scenario? That's a machlekes. Itmar. Nimtza like a gris void. You find the gris plus, which is beyond your limit of one macheles. Voisa void. But on that little extra, rutzufa by macheles. There's an extra macheles there. So clearly, that's the source of that dam. But in sum total, you're above the limit. Reb Chanina Eimer Tmeya, she's tummy. You can't get a double exemption. It's one or the other, either standard or itemized. Either you get your standard macheles exemption, the unknown macheles exemption, or the known macheles exemption. You can't take it both ways. Rabbi Yani Eimer Tahira, why not? Rabbi Chanina Eimer Tmeya, look, Italia b'kigris. Chachamim allowed you to be toila, to attribute, to blame up until a gris. But more, that's too much. B'kigris v'oid lo Italia. Rabbi Yani Eimer, no. Of course she's tahir. When does she have that maximum? When there is no macheles attached. So it's just a matter of theorizing. Okay, so everybody gets a standard exemption up until. But here you have macheles right here on side muchamils. It's pretty clear and evident. So this extra is from this macheles. So what's left? Standard gris. Okay, for that we have standard exemptions. Partially kigris. We have the leftover kigris, which typically is not an issue. Given the alma talia, since typically you can attribute it to a macheles, an unknown macheles, there's no difference. It's no worse in this case. Achanami talia. But Rabbi Yirmiyah comes with an interesting question, which the Gemara will link up to the previous discussion. This aska b'kigris v'nimtzaleh b'kigris void. In this case, she was involved. She was handling the dam of a tzipor, which is not dam NIDAH, or as she says, other types of colored, substances. And as we learned yesterday, she can blame her stain on those. But she knows how much she was handling. Only a gris amount, a penny amount. So this material can generate at the most, at the maximum, a stain the size of a gris. And she found more than that, a gris plus. What happens here? Now, this question can be posed according to both previous opinions, and because it isn't necessarily lined up. The question can be posed according to both opinions, because there are differentiating elements between this and the previous case. Tibo, you can ask it, Rabbi Chanina. Ad kan, like Amar, Rabbi Chanina Hasam Tmeya. Perhaps it's only there. Rabbi Chanina says she's tummy, because you can't give her that double exemption. This macheles and then the theoretical macheles. You only get one macheles per stain. Elo Adlenis asked because she wasn't actually involved in the dam. It's just a macheles that was found plus the unknown macheles. Too much for one person. But here she had in her hands this material, which can certainly be the reason for this thing. So here we can discount that amount And regarding the leftover, that's the standard exemption of the machelis. You're not giving her 2 machel, give her 1 machelis. The nisaska is right here. This material is what generated this stain. It's not a tzli, it's not an excuse, not an alibi or cover story. So here, even he agrees that it's okay. Or you can go the other way. I feel Rabbi Yanai. Even Rabbi Yanai, who typically says the Amar Tahira by the previous story, that's when you actually have machelis on site, clearly producing that dam, that could be discounted from the equation. Or you left with the penny worth, for which you get a standard exemption. I tell you, hey, you don't have a machelis on site. Yeah, she was nisaska, she was handling materials, but who says that it generated this stain? So again, it's theorizing. Who said you get a double exemption? Toshma. I'm going to try to prove what to do in this case. We have a brayso, nisaska ba'adai, ein toila b'shachar. If she was handling red material and she finds a black stain, you can't blame it on that. B'muad, ein toila b'meruba. She was handling a small amount, you can't blame a large amount on that material. Now what exactly happened? Lav ki gavna. Let's assume, when the brayso is speaking about a suggestion of blaming a large amount on a small amount, must be speaking like this: that she found more than a penny's worth, and she was only handling a penny's worth. The brayso says you can't give her the coverage for that. It's too much. No, who says? She was handling a penny's worth. We learned yesterday, according to many poskim, a gris is the size of a penny. But then we found more than double that amount. Not just a penny plus, 2 pennies plus. That's way overboard. In that case, she can't cover herself. If that's the case, then it's way overboard. Why even discuss such a case? Well, it's not so simple. Listen to this. Perhaps I can suggest a way to get her out. How? True, it's a jumbo stain. It's more than twice your exemption. But since she knows that she was involved, she was handling some, blood of a bird, right? The size of a penny. It's all about location. Perhaps we can position that exempted blood, that excused blood, right in the middle of the stain, which now separates the 2 sides, leaving us with less than a penny's worth on either side. 2 stains, too small to make her a tummy. But take the gris of the tzibur, shadu b'miti, toss it right in between, right in the middle. Zilacha like a shira, in which case it leaves you with 2 separate mini stains on either side. Zilacha go to this side like a shira, you have less than a shir. Zilacha go to the other side like a shira, you have less than a shir. Kamash one, we don't do that. Okay, so conclusion. She had a gris plus, but there was a machayla stuck on the corner. Rav Chanina says you can't give her a double exemption for the itemized exemption and the standard exemption. Yanai says no. The part under the machelis, that's discounted. And the rest is your standard exemption. We had a similar story about nisaska. She's involved in some materials and she ended up with a large stain. Once again, similar question. Should we give her coverage for more than a gris? Blame it on the nisaska, blame it on the unknown machelis, or it's a bit too much for coverage. And we concluded that you certainly can't take a real supersized stain and attribute the middle part to the dam toyhar and split it up into 2 small sections. That's a bit of a stretch. Amar Rava. So the woman comes home. She finds this sap, this tree sap, this colored material, which is certainly not dam, on her beged. Says Rava, look, apparently she wasn't really cognizant. She was lacking in awareness. The fact is, she got splattered with this material. So now if she finds other stains as well, blood stains, she can just discount them as well. Rashi says, because we say, look, since you weren't paying attention, and you got this splatter without realizing, let's assume that the other ones as well, the blood spots as well, came upon her without her noticing, it happened. And it's not attributed to herself, it's not dam NIDAH. Amar Rava, Toilet Kamamina. So even though they're red and this one is, black tree sap, it's all part of the same experience. Maybe it comes a kasha. How could you do that? The Brisa says, "Askaba adam in toilet by shachar." She knows she was involved with red material, and she finds a black stain, which could be dam. She can't attribute it to the red material. She can't say, "Well, just like I was busy with." So what do you see? That one color can't be linked to the other. Saska shiny. It's very different in this case because she knows she was handling the red material and not black. So how'd she get a black stain? Oh, apparently it's dam. Well, there's strong suspicion that it's dam, but in the case of she's walking down the street and without realizing she gets this random black stain, so just like that sap, so the other blood stain that she got was also from elsewhere and not dam nida. Ikadami, there's another version of Rava's statement which isn't going to be so lenient. She was involved with one color paint. She can attribute all these stains that she finds on her beged to some sort of external source. Maybe it comes a kasha. The Brisa clearly discounts that notion. She was asked with red. You can't blame the black on the red. Why is Rav allowing it? No, could come a Rav. We're speaking a very specific case. It's Aska B'Tana Goylis. She was involved in processing a chicken. A chicken has many hues of many different colors. The ispa come in many different types of blood. You have the dam shchita, which is red. You have the dam of the inside, which is maybe green, more green, greenish. You have all kinds of colors there. That's what Rav meant. He didn't mean to say that if you're involved with one color, it covers all colors of the rainbow. He meant to say that in some instances, you have coverage on many colors. For instance, the Tarnakotis. Okay, back in the Mishnah, we had a story. A woman shows up to Rabbi Akiva with a shaila on a stain. He says, hold it, before we proceed, perhaps you have some sort of scratch, a wound, and that could be reopened, that can reopen itself and stop bleeding. And she says, yeah, and he allowed her to blame it on that. The Talmudim was surprised, to which he responded by saying, look, this whole din of kesem is only lahachmer, it's the rabbanon, and it has to follow certain guidelines. There's any, even remote possibility, any logical possibility, that could cover for this dam in a way that absolves her, you follow that. So the wording which he chose to respond with was La'amru chacham hadav lahachmer el lahakal. Chacham presented the halach of kesem not in a strict way, rather in a lenient way. Vatanya, we have a brisa which goes exactly the opposite, which words it in the reverse. La'amru chacham hadav lahakal el lahachmer. It wasn't presented as a kula only to be machmer. Seems to be a contradiction with the Mishnah. Amar Rava. It's a different point. The concept of kesem is in essence not a leniency. Actually, it's a stringency. Because as we learned in Torah, only a personal flaw is metame, but a stain found on it's not metame. Allah Chacham will machmer because it's close to the real thing, and we don't want people to misunderstand. But the actual ksam is only the rabbanon, in which case they applied certain leniencies, certain excuses, certain coverages for it. So etliya can be matar ekes, something which you wouldn't use on actual dam nida daraisa. But since it's only the rabbanon, it was presented with limited guidelines and allows for these tliyos. Eichu nasan. Okay, the last halach in the Mishnah is you find this cloth with a mark on it. If that's what a tzaddik says, look, depends on the configuration of the mark. If it's elongated, right, she used it to wipe herself, then you know it's from herself. Dam nida, despite its smallness and size, even a drop of real dam nida is mitamadisha. If you find it to be round, that's like some sort of stain, some sort of squish, some sort of squished louse. If it's less than ecris, then it's like any other stain, and it's hard. Now the question is this opinion agreed upon by all, or do we have disputants? Yiboilu. on this Eichu Nasan, right? This halach. Mi pligi Rabban alei Rav Levi Tzadik, oiloi. Anybody disagreeing with him or not? Tashmai comes at right. Kesem oroich mitzdaref. If you have a long stain, so even though it's long and narrow, it's daref. If the sum total is a shear of more than a gris, she's tummy. However, if it's a bunch of little spots, tipin, you don't connect the dots, right? Each one's a separate stain. Each one is dealt with separately, but smaller than the shear, she's okay. Now, who's speaking in this brisa, which seems to treat an elongated stain like a regular stain, which requires a shear, which according to Rabbi Tzaddik is not so. He attributes a long stain to the woman without any excuses. In which case, even a small stain, shear is not a factor here, because it's confirmed to have come from her. Mani, who's speaking? By this long stain, why view the sum total? Why even reckon with amounts? Ha'amar, didn't he tell us mashach if it's long? Even kol shu tummy, even a small stain is tummy. El lav rabbanan. It must be the rabbanan speaking, and that confirms that they are in disagreement with Rabbi Eliezer Tzaddik. According to them, whether it's round or long, it's still a regular kesem, which requires a shear to be tummy. Shema min a pligi. Apparently, there's a machlokes. They're disagreeing with him. Loi, no, lo'ilam, Rabbi Eliezer Tzaddik. Maybe it's him speaking. You see, it's very different here, because here it's a kesem. It was just a stain on her garment. It wasn't a cloth that she used to wipe herself. There, he says, long is certainly from her, but here it's a stain on the beged. So whether it's round, oval, long, it's all the same thing. A drip down there. The question is, where did it come from? And if it has less than a shear, it's going to be tar, according to all shittas. Tashmai comes at raya. Again, to this question of whether anybody takes issue, anybody disagrees with Rabbi Eliezer Tzaddik. Damar v'damar shmol, halach Rabbi Eliezer Tzaddik. Halach amchal depligi shmamina. When you say, I adopt Rabbi Eliezer Tzaddik's shita, that implies that there are opponents, which necessitated that verdict, that declaration. We pass like this shita, apparently, pligi, there's a machlokes. Okay, so bottom line is, if she finds a kesem, whether it's round, oval, long, short, it has to conform to the minimum size which a gris v'oid, according to all shittas. But if it's on the aid that she used to wipe, Rabbanan say it's like any other kesem. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Tzaddik differentiates based on configuration. If it's round, standard kesem halachas apply. If it's mashuch, even a mashu is tummy. That confirms that it was sourced from the isha. Hadron lo haroya kesem. Okay, we turn to Talmud Bavli, the brand new parak. It says in the Mishnah, Ha'isha she oiset tzorchea. V'rosadam, a woman while tending to her waters. So while tending to her needs, she sees dam. Now Rashi explains verse many times here and previous parak that it's not derech for dam NIDAH to emerge with the meiraglayim. It's a different system, different track, different channel. So we find dam with the meiraglayim. It can either be dam NIDAH, which is unlikely, or it could be dam of a makkah, some sort of wound, some sort of skin condition, some sort of scratch, right? So what happens? Rav Meir Omer depends on her position. Typically, an isha is sitting, but if she's standing, memedes, which indicates that there's a strong buildup of pressure. Otherwise, it wouldn't, right? So if she's tending to her waters when she's in a standing position, so that intense pressure could very well have caused a backup and could have squeezed out the dam NIDAH. So even though, naturally speaking, typically speaking, a routine discharge of water does not bring along meraglayim of the makar of the womb, but if it was a medes, so that discharge must have been experienced with great pressure. Otherwise, there would be no discharge in that position, which could have triggered dam NIDAH. Even medes, she's tmeya. But in sitting positions, tar. Rabbi Yossi Omer, either way she's tar. It's unlikely that it's dam NIDAH, which typically does not accompany meraglayim, different system, a different track. Standing and sitting, tar. Now comes another variation of this halach. So up until now we have meraglayim of an isha. accompanied with dam. In this case, you have one seifel, one container, one wastewater container, used by an ish and by an isha. And after a while, you find some dam there. Who did it come from? And if it came from the isha, what kind of dam is it? So you have a double doubt, a double suffix. Is it from the ish, in which case it's tar? And even from the isha, maybe it's tar as well. But it's a dam al-mai. In this case as well, he says tar. And the obvious question is, of course, if he's mitar in the previous case, but it's just one element of uncertainty. Certainly in this case, you have a double svek. The Gemara asks this question, of course. If Rabbi Shimon takes it to the other extreme, he says, Metame, even in this case where it's a double doubt, I say Tame because who produces dam? For the most part, women. Dam NIDAH. That's it. Attributed to the Isha, no questions asked. Rabbi Shimon Metame, Shein derech ish lo yitzi dam. It's not regular for a man to produce dam. Ela shechas dam an Isha. It's presumed to be from the Isha. Okay, so we have three shittas. From one side of the spectrum to the other, we have dam alongside meraglayim. Question: is it dam NIDAH or not? Rabbi Yossi says tahar all the way. Rabbi Shimon says tami all the way. Rabbi Meir says well, it depends on position. Emed says tmeya, Yesheva says tahar. Asks the Gemara the obvious: what's the difference standing or sitting? Mashna Emed. Why is it that by standing she's tami? Because we have to entertain the chance that when we say meraglayim hadal makar. Seemingly, the meraglayim backed up to the makar, v'aysidam and squeezed out the dam. Oh, Yeshevas nami nema meraglayim hadal makar v'aysidam. Well, in sitting position as well, the meraglayim could have done the same thing. Amar Shmuel mizanekes. We're speaking that she's mizanek, she's spurting with a strong flow. In that case, it's clear that the meraglayim are running through their own track, their own channel, not backing up, not moving around, and that will not be accompanied by dam NIDAH. Well, mizanek, but by Rashi points out, this zinuk experience only happens when she's sitting. So Yeshevas means, i.e., mizanek, a strong flow, must be separate, independent from dam NIDAH. Right? So this pronounced expression of meraglayim is not presumed to be with dam NIDAH. But a medes, says Rashi, will not have mizanekas, because in standing position, it's not a natural format, in which case it's indicative of a strong pressure buildup, which forces the meraglayim out, which the more someone will call shesesis, like a trickle, more than a strong force, like a trickle. In that case, it can very well be accompanied with by dam, because of the pressure, because of the right. As the Gemara zanekas namis, even when she's in sitting position and it's a strong spurt, dilma basa the tamamaya asadam. Maybe once the flow has subsided, tamamaya, the waters had depleted, then we have a weaker trickle, which could be accompanied with by dam. Amar Abba b'yeshevas hasvasa seifel zanekas b'teicha seifel. What happened was she was sitting at the edge of the container, so her location was on the edge. Where if the dam would have arrived with the trickle at the end, at the very end, the droplets, then it would have been found at the edge. And she spurred into the middle. Where did you find the dam? In the middle of the seifel, which certainly came with the zinuk, with a strong flow. So since you've confirmed that this dam is associated with the strong flow, okay, so that takes us back to our earlier notion, which is dam NIDAH will not accompany a strong flow. There is the basar tamamaya also, because if in fact the dam arrived once the zinuk had depleted, and it came with the remaining droplets at the end, where would it be found? Not in the middle of the container, rather at the edge, which is her position. And you don't find it there. So she's tar. Amar Shmuel. Some say Amar Shmuel halacha is Rabbi Yossi. In all situations, standing, sitting, she's tar, because it's unlikely to be associated with dam NIDAH. Earlier, Rabbi likewise ruled to a man named Lekala, who had this kind of question. He says, "Alach Rabbi Yossi, she's Torah. Ishvi Isha." Next door we have a man and a woman, so we have another element of uncertainty. Who's in it? Rabbi Yossi says Tar, Rabbi Shimon says Tamei. Now, what is Rabbi Meir's position on the case of Ishvi Isha? So we know, right, we have two parts of the Mishnah. Part one, which is just the Isha herself. Rabbi Meir says standing, that's trouble. Sitting is okay. Let's skip over to part B. We have another element of uncertainty. We have Ishvi Isha involved. What would Rabbi Meir's opinion be in this case? Let's say the woman was standing. On the one hand, she's at a disadvantage. To strike against her, because standing is trouble. But you have the mitigating element. You have the man there, who could be the source of dam. The question was posed: what would Rabbi Meir's opinion be if you have a man and a woman, and it's in standing position? So standing is a strike, but the fact that there's another possible source of dam is an advantage. Perhaps when Rabbi Meir applies tumah by the amedis, that is when there's only one element of doubt. It's just the Isha there. And the question is it from this dam or from that dam? But when there's another element of doubt, there's a man around as well who could be the source of dam, so in that case, even if she's standing, we're not matame. After all, there's a double element of doubt. Perhaps there's no difference. And the fact is that since we have the Isha there, and she's standing, likely that it came from her, and we discount the other element of doubt, i.e. the presence of the man, on which we have Machlekes Amaroyim, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Reish Lakish hi. Same exact in both cases. So we disregard the man's presence. He's not like a likely source of dam. We only focus on the Isha, and since she's a medis, we attribute it to dam nida. How do I know? Mimai. The fact is, in part B of the Mishnah, we have no reference to Rabbi Meir's opinion, who should have gone alongside Rabbi Yossi and Mimatar. Apparently, he's not Mitar. If that's the case, that according to Rabbi Meir, in this case of double doubt, she is Tamei. So why does the Mishnah even have to discuss that first case? Rabbi Meir says if it's a single doubt, she's Tamei. Well, obviously, even by a double doubt, she's Tamei. Of course, by a single doubt. Yochi hashta Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, even by a double suffix, in the case of the Seifa, applies Tumah b'chatz fekim boy. It's only the first case, so it's only one element of doubt. So why discuss that first case at all? It was to highlight Rabbi Yossi's opinion, who is metar even by just a single element of doubt. Asks the Gemara. Okay, so you have a choice in terms of which scenario to present. If you present the first, as the Mishnah does, it highlights Rabbi Yossi's lenient approach. That even if it's limited to just one suffix, he's metar. But then you could also highlight the second part of the Mishnah and say, well, even when it's a double element of doubt, Rabbi Meir says Tamei. So why are you focusing on the first versus the second? Instead of presenting the case of the first suffix as a machlekes, Rabbi Yossi to highlight Rabbi Yossi's leniency, instead, why don't we present our machlekes in the second case? To bring out Rabbi Meir's point of view, that even when you have a double element of doubt, he's still matami. The answer is, as we say many times, the Tana preferred presenting the power of heter. Rashi Mesachas Beis says it's rather easy to just be machmer in a case of uncertainty. Anybody can do that. I'm not sure, machmer. But to actually be mater, that takes expertise, it takes true knowledge, it takes confidence, and clarity in halacha. And that's what the Mishnah sought to point out. That even when it's a case of just one uncertainty, still Rabbi Yossi says, look, how likely is it that the dam came along with the Meir Aglaim? It's not a natural course of events. She's Torah. Okay, so back to the question. We know that in the case of one Isha Imedes, Rabbi Meir says Tamei. What if there's an Isha Imedes with a man? Reish Lakish says, same story. Rabbi Yochanan, no. You have an added element of doubt? Even Rabbi Meir will consider that into the equation and may consider her Torah. Rabbi Yochanan Mekikam Rabbi B'chat Sveika. True, Rabbi Meir applies Tumah in the first case when there's just one element of suffix. Aval b'sfek Sveika lo Amar. Not so in the second case where there's double suffix. Even he agrees it's tar. In the case that begs the question: Listen, why did the Mishnah pair him up with Rabbi Yossi as being metar? Listen, Rabbi Yossi metar and Chanami. You're right. The Mishnah could have done so. It's just a semantics choice of words. Va'aydi the tzalak Rabbi Yossi, pas Rabbi Yossi. Since we just left off with Rabbi Yossi, right? Rabbi Yossi, whether standing or sitting, so we sort of continue on with the same name, but really Rabbi would agree to him as well in the case of Sveik, pas of Rabbi Yossi. Ask the Gemara the obvious question now. For Rabbi Yossi, b'chat Sveika metar, why even bring out Rabbi Yossi's opinion in the case of the double suffix? If he allows even by just one suffix, certainly by two, it sounds redundant. It sounds superfluous to bring out the heter by Sveika, which is so obvious. Rabbi Yossi b'chat Sveika metar, Sveika meboyim, other tema, there, you're right. We're just trying to point out something on top of the basic halacha. Other tema, hani milu di'evet. If only the first quote of Rabbi Yossi, I would say, yeah, she's tar, even though she's standing, but di'evet, meaning after the fact she touched something. Well, we don't consider it tamei. But maybe l'chatchil you shouldn't initiate. Because, look, after all, there's some element of uncertainty. Kamash, one answer is no. And that's why the Mishnah highlights and repeats Rabbi Yossi's opinion in all situations, in all circumstances. She's A-OK. She can touch whatever she wants. Okay, so again, we know that Rabbi Meir, if it's one Isha, he says, Aymedes Tmeya, Yesheves Tar. What if it's an Ishvi Isha, an element of suffix on top of the first element? Rish Lakish says it doesn't really change the equation. Rabbi Yochanan says, in this case, even Rabbi Meir agrees she's Tar. Tanik was Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan, Ishvi Isha She'asur Tzochen Tzach HaSeifel. So you have the Ishvi Isha here. You discovered Dam, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi metar. Clearly, Rabbi Meir pairs up with Rabbi Yossi in this case and makes her tar. Rabbi Shimon, that's the third shita, we're going to discuss that in a minute. He's matami even in this case. Why? As he said in the Mishnah. Chances are, Cheskas Dam, most Dam comes from the Isha. She's the one that produces Dam. So even though there are all kinds of elements of doubt here, we link it to her. The question is to what extent does Reb Shimon attach the dam to the Isha? Isha is Sheves. Maliyam Reb Shimon. I understand that Reb Shimon applies to me even when there's a man in the equation, because in terms of considering the man versus the woman as a source of dam, man is not a player. But let's go back to the first part of the Mishnah. It's just one person, an Isha, and she's sitting. Would Reb Shimon agree in this case to Reb Meir that she's okay? Because in the actual course of events, it's very unlikely for Dam to come in that position. What would Reb Shimon's opinion be in that case? Perhaps Reb Shimon is strict. It's only when she's standing. And since the likelihood of Dam Nida is very high, he discounts the fact that there's a man there and attributes it to the Isha. Because it's squeezed, it's tight, there's pressure, as we explained. But in sitting position, you don't have that element of pressure. So let's assume there's any Dam alongside the Breg Lime, it's from a Maka. Or no, perhaps no. Reb Shimon is Machmer. In all cases, it's so likely that it's from her, so likely that it's Dam Nida, she's telling in all situations. Tashma, you're right, the sign of a Raisa, Yesheves, Toiler, Midas, and a Toiler Rameir. Rameir says, sitting is okay, standing is not. Rabbi Yossi Omer, either way it's okay. Toiler. Either way, she is Toiler, which means to say, she attributes it to a Maka, unlikely to Dam, that is Dam Nida. Rabbi Shimon Omer, in all situations, we assume it's Dam Nida. She can't attribute it to a Maka. Now comes one last point. But how far does Reb Shimon really go? You have an Ishvi Isha Yoshvin. Here you have a double mitigating factor. First of all, she's sitting. To begin with, that's a mitigating factor. Number two, you have a man alongside in the equation, right? He used the seifel and she used it, right? So there are two elements of suffix. What would be Reb Shimon's opinion in this case. Ish v'isha yosh mali Rab Shimon. Ki Rab Shimon. Maybe Rab Shimon is only going to apply tuma. For instance, if it's a medis, even though there's an ish in the equation, so that's one mitigating element, but she's in standing position, which makes it more likely for the dam to come from the makar. So since it's only merely one element of doubt, the ish part of so tummy. Or alternatively, via sheves. If she's herself, so there's no ish in the equation to discount that factor. It's just the isha. And despite the fact that she is sheves, which is a mitigating factor, as we explained before, he makes her tummy because in both these cases, you don't have a double element of doubt. You don't have what Rashi calls tarti lakula, two mitigating facts. You only have one in each. Right? In the first case, a medis means that there's an ish in the equation, so that's a mitigating factor, but she's standing, so that's a factor to a detriment. And the next case, you have Yesheves. She's alone in the equation, but she's Yesheves, which makes it more likely that it came from her. The Chat Safek where it only entails one Safek. Abel Besfek, Svek Aloy Omar, but perhaps we have a double kula, two mitigating factors. A, she's sitting, which makes it less likely. B, there's an ish in the equation. Loy Omar, perhaps in this case he will not apply tumah. Or perhaps it doesn't make a difference. Reb Shimon so strongly attributes the dam to the isha, to the dam nida, in all situations, so we tell me, to Hashmai comes a raya, yep. Kivan, dam Reb Shimon, let's take a look at Reb Shimon's presentation in the Mishnah. He gives a reason for his shita. He says, Cheskas damim. It's presumed that all dam comes from the isha. It's so unlikely that the man produced it. It's so unlikely that the dam is not dam nida. And that covers all circumstances. Kivan, Reb Shimon himself concludes with the words, Cheskas damim isha. What does that tell us about his opinion? Loishna Oimdim, Loishna Yoshim, doesn't matter whether standing, sitting, herself, or there's an ish in the picture, tummy all around. So in conclusion, Isha discovers dam in the Meraglayim. We have three shittas. On the one side we have Rabbi Yosi, Tahir all the way. How does dam get with the Meraglayim? It's a different system, she's Tahir. We assume it's a Makkah. Rabbi Shimon goes the other way, he says, in all cases she's tummy. Dam, it comes from the Isha, and Makar. Oh, according to our mayor, it depends. So if it's just the Isha herself, a medis is Tameh, Yesheves is Tahira. When there's another mitigating factor, it's an Ish v'Isha in the equation, well, Rosh Lakish says it doesn't really matter. Because the medis, it's so likely that it came from her, we attribute it to her. B'Yachan says, no, in this case, you have to reckon with the fact that it's an Ish as part of the equation. And in this case, even Rameir agrees, it's ex-feka, and she is Tar. And the Gemara quoted some stories where they paskened, look, Rabbi Yossi, in all cases, she is Tahira. Okay, all the best to you, and Atzlacha Rab.